Hello everyone, this is Ruby Stretch delivering my cast assessment and placement predictions video for Hell's Kitchen Season 20 to you. Like with last season's corresponding video, I will assess the contestants based on what I've seen in the first 5 episodes in this video. However, this time, I was also sure to consider relevant teasers and TV listing descriptions in this assessment. Considering that I will dive into events that have occurred over the past 5 episodes, and that this video will include potential revelations for future episodes, I am issuing a spoiler alert for the rest of the video. You have been warned. I will first assess the 5 eliminated contestants in the order of their elimination and, from there, will assess the remaining contestants based on where I think they will place this season. To start off, we've got Ava Heron. In the Signature Dish Challenge, she had plans to impress Ramsay with her flavors in her chicken dish, but this did not work out for her as the dish was overshadowed by its poorly prepared rice and broccoli. Fortunately for her, she at least got to enjoy the first reward before a short stay in Hell's Kitchen came to an end. Despite proudly being the first contestant from Alaska, Ava served up raw salmon in the alcohol challenge and was deemed the contestant with the worst dish on the red team. The contestant with this dishonor from the blue team was Matthew, who had served up raw chicken. Between these two, I at first thought that Matthew would be eliminated, as raw chicken is a more unforgivable culinary mistake than raw salmon is. But Ramsay eliminated Ava instead and deemed her dish the worst overall. I could see different reasons as for why he eliminated her over Matthew. First, Ramsay didn't appreciate the irony of her salmon failure considering that she was from Alaska. Second, Ramsay might have noticed how likely the teams were lopsided in their current states and eliminated Ava in order to prevent the blue team from being far behind in their numbers too early, which would have, in turn, forced a team switch too early in the season. Third, in Matthew's plea, he came across like he would be able to shine if given the chance to get used to the fast pace of Hell's Kitchen, and maybe Ramsay agreed that he still had potential in the competition after all. Besides, Paul Niederman once served raw chicken during service, but he went on to win Season 9. Because of Ava's unorthodox elimination, Ramsay gave no comment, but here's my idea for a comment. It's ironic that Ava the Alaskan couldn't even cook her salmon dish right. Considering that she came into this season with such high expectations for herself, it's also ironic that she's the first to go. Next, there's the food vlogger himself, Matthew Francis Johnson. Matthew managed to outlast Ava and stay for the whole cycle, but, in my opinion, he is the worst contestant of the season and one of the worst Hell's Kitchen contestants of all time. Matthew seems to have never worked in a brigade before because, as he admitted himself, he was not used to the fast pace of a typical restaurant. His short stay in Hell's Kitchen was summarized well by Ramsay when the latter was eliminated him without even hearing his plea. Matthew served shrimp that still had the poop sack in the Signature Dish Challenge, he then served raw chicken in the Alcohol Challenge, and then he blew it in the first service with his raw lamb. Oh right, and worst of all, his attitude sucked. Next, we've got the so-called greatest millennial chef of all time in Kansas City, Jay Smith. Even though Jay seemed like he would make a great coworker in a restaurant, the problem with him throughout his whole stay was that he'd demonstrate a lot of confidence in his abilities, but whenever he would stand out, it would be for the wrong reasons. Though he didn't necessarily have a weak dish in the Alcohol Challenge, he had one of the weaker dishes in the Signature Dish Challenge, and contributed to the blue team's loss of that challenge. Furthermore, he was nominated by Ramsay for elimination after the first service for a poorly timed raw salmon. Finally, he had a poor performance on garnish in the second service, which incited Ramsay to eliminate him over Alex, who, like Matthew, notoriously presented raw chicken, sending him back to Kansas City. Next, there's Alex Lennick. During the first 2 episodes, Alex didn't have much screen time, but he seemed to be consistently okay in terms of his performances. However, during the second service, he sent up raw chicken more than once, the last of these mistakes being the last drop before Ramsay kicked the men out of the kitchen. Alex was best remembered for throwing Antonio, Trenton, and Sam under the bus during the corresponding elimination ceremony, an event that would be called Chicken Gate by Ramsay. Because Jay's consistent mistakes throughout the competition overshadowed Alex's blame game, Jay was eliminated over Alex, but it was evident that Alex would be on thin ice going into the next episode. Unfortunately for Alex, he was the weakest link on the blue team in both the brunch service challenge and the third dinner service, so he was finally shown the door. Next, the last contestant to be eliminated, Morgana Vesey. Morgana had such a strong edit over the first 4 episodes that I would have been in disbelief had I been told that she would be going home in the 5th episode. She seemed like one of the frontrunners of an already strong red team, to the point that she would have been one of my black jacket predictions about a week ago. However, by the time one finishes watching the 5th episode, they would understand why she got the boot. In the Emoji Jacket Challenge, She performed well, but her looming derailment was foreshadowed by Ramsay asking her to speak up about what her dish consisted of. During the fourth dinner service, Morgana floundered on the fish station and was one of the two main disasters of the new red team that night, the other of which being Peyton for his mistakes on the garnish station. Obviously, both were nominated for elimination that night, but both the red team and Ramsay were more concentrated on her lack of voice rather than her poor fish in terms of the reason why she was up for elimination. When watching the elimination live, I was undecided on who I thought would be going home, Peyton for his multiple mistakes throughout the competition, or Morgana due to the emphasis put on her lack of voice, which is something that Ramsay values critically. Regardless, when Morgana was eliminated, I wasn't really surprised and I understood Ramsay's decision. Now that the eliminated contestants are out of the way, I will present the remaining contestants in the order that I predict that they will place this season. To begin, I predict that the contestant eliminated in 13th place will be Peyton Cooper. This one is simple. With the way things ended in the 5th episode, it seems that there will be more drama between Peyton and the red team, especially Brynn, going forward. Also, after surviving his second nomination, Ramsay informed Peyton that he needed to wake up and smell the coffee, and it's obvious that he is on his last legs going into the 6th episode. The Futon Critics, or TFCs as I will be referring to it from this point forward, TV listing description for the 6th episode, reveals that one team will rise to the occasion during dinner service, and the other will serve up their biggest disappointment so far. The preview for this episode at the end of the 5th episode shows Peyton and Brynn throwing their jackets to the ground in frustration, indicating to me that the red team will be the losing team during the next service. Given its current roster, I see Peyton as being the main source of its problems, and he'll get cut here. Right after his elimination, Ramsay will reassign Antonio to the red team in order to even the two teams out. Next, I predict that the contestant eliminated in 12th place will be Kevin Argueta. What I've noticed about Kevin is that not only did he serve up one of the weaker signature dishes, but he comes across as sleepy in a way. He hasn't had a particularly bad service yet, but his edit is incredibly middle of the road, and he hasn't really stood out positively thus far apart from in the squid prepping challenge and during the 4th dinner service. The thing is, his zen approach to the fast pace of service worked out for him in the 4th dinner service, but I don't think he'll keep the positive results up for long, and Ramsay will retort that he needs to wake up when chastising him mid-service in the 6th episode. Ultimately, the 5th service will still finish smoothly for the blue team, but I think that Kevin will make multiple mistakes in the 6th service in the 7th episode, and Ramsay will even eject him mid-service for these. Contributing to this very specific prediction are TFC's TV listing description for the 7th episode, and various previews seeming to indicate that Kevin will make it too far into the competition. Next, I predict that the contestant eliminated in 11th place will be Keanu Hogan. Keanu has shown to be a relatively consistent performer thus far, to the point where even Ramsay overruled her nomination in the 5th episode, as he stated that she was not scrambled during the 4th service as the red team claimed she seemed. However, Ramsay overruling a contestant's nomination does not guarantee that they will make it deep into the competition. For example, in Season 10, Ramsay overruled Don Savage's nomination in the 1st episode because he had done nothing wrong during the 1st service, yet he was still eliminated 3 episodes later after both a poor performance on meat and showing a lack of improvement. A more relevant example of this kind of contestant is Lauren Lawless from Season 19, whose nomination after the 2nd service was overruled, yet who was still eliminated 5 episodes later after producing the worst dish in the Cook for Your Life challenge. Speaking of which, TFC's TV listing description for the 8th episode indicates that the Cook for Your Life challenge will happen at this time, and I predict that Keanu will produce the worst dish, eliminating her from the competition. Continuing the trend that has been consistent since Season 13, I believe that there will be 8 eliminated contestants returning for the final service, which means that everyone who made it to the final 10 has a spot reserved in the finale. I predict that the contestant eliminated in 10th place will be Antonio Ruiz. Given his temperament, Antonio reminds me of Mark Quinones from Season 19. However, I find that the difference separating the ups and downs for Antonio is not nearly as extreme as Mark's. As for Mark, he showed that he could be a really strong cook and was enthusiastic about taking up the leadership role. However, this was juxtaposed with his aggressive and defensive attitude concerning his leadership and some cooking fumbles during the last couple of services before his elimination. Alternatively, Antonio has had inconsistent performances in both challenges and services thus far, and his attempts at leadership have neither been taken seriously by his team nor have been truly successful. However, this is currently juxtaposed by his relatively better teamwork and social interactions with his teammates in comparison to Mark. Though Antonio's teammates have much more patience for him than Mark's teammates did for him back in Season 19, I believe that Ramsey will have run out of patience with Antonia by the end of the 9th episode, and he will be eliminated here. Next, I predict that the contestant eliminated in 9th place will be Trenton Garvey. Trenton seems to be one of the most consistent male performers and a good team player, but he wasn't immune from mistakes during the first 5 episodes. In particular, he fried an egg in a cast iron pan in the 4th episode, a mistake that in all fairness he even chastised himself for, and he annoyed Ramsey in the emoji jacket challenge when he tried to spice up a dish of Ramsey's that he was supposed to replicate. Considering that the red team will be behind one member at this point according to my predictions, I don't see another one of its members going home here, as I don't see a third team switch happening this season. Out of what would be the blue team's 5 remaining members at this point, I see Trenton as the one most likely to be cut this early. When the first team switch happened, he believed that he was now on an all-black jacket team. Unfortunately for Trenton, I don't think that the real black jacket team will be including him. Next, I predict that the contestant eliminated in 8th place will be Josie Clemens. To me, Josie comes across as very meh. So far, she's had a variety of weak, strong, and medium performances. I find she stood out more in the first 5 episodes for her comments concerning her fandom regarding Ramsey and Hell's Kitchen, and concerning how her vegan lifestyle may or may not affect her performance on the show. Considering that previews seem to indicate that Josie makes it to at least around the blind taste test, and that I don't think a red team member will be eliminated at the final 9, I can't predict that she'll be eliminated before this point, but I also don't see her making it past this point either. Next, I predict that the contestant eliminated in 7th place will be Victoria Sonora. Victoria got out of the gate strong, and was perceived as one of the frontrunners of an already strong red team. However, she had a careless performance on the fish station during the 3rd dinner service which almost sent her home. Fortunately for Victoria, Ramsey gave her another chance after sending Alex home, and she was reassigned to the blue team along with Emily and Megan. Her first service with the blue team went well, and I believe that she will continue to perform well with them. The thing is, various contestants have talked about how strong Victoria is in their confessionals, which gives me the impression that she is still a frontrunner in this competition, and will make it far in spite of her poor showing during the 3rd dinner service. However, this poor showing still somewhat leaves a bad taste in my mouth, and that's why I don't have her as one of my 5 black jacket predictions. The number of black jackets issued per season has been 5 since season 15, and I don't see that changing for this season. Deciding who between the next 2 chefs would get 6th and 5th place was difficult. One thing that I've noticed, and probably many of us have noticed, since the black jacket elimination challenge started in season 16, which I believe will happen again in this season, is that the contestant who would be eliminated in 6th place tended to have better performances throughout the season and the challenge itself, and tended to be more liked by fans than the contestant who would receive their black jacket last. Furthermore, the 6th place contestant would always lose, according to Ramsey, by a very slim margin in the final round of the gauntlet, and the last contestant to receive their black jacket would be eliminated in 5th place in the next episode. So, going back to these 2 chefs, whichever of them will have a better track record and be more well-liked by fans than the other when the final 6 arrives, seems uncertain. The thing is, with one of these chefs in particular, I could see her as the Nikki Hanna of the season, losing to a more well-liked Amber Lancaster in terms of her rising confidence character arc. But I could also see her as the Heather Williams of the season, beating a Kanae Houston in terms of how I think she started strong in this season, but has since begun to go on a downward spiral. After careful deliberation, I decided upon the latter of these 2 scenarios as the guideline for my next 2 placement predictions. So, the contestant that I compared to Amber and, particularly more accurately, to Kanae and who I predict will be eliminated in 6th place is Emily Hirsch. Emily has had a few minor glitches in her performances, but I believe that she will be only going up from the 5th episode in terms of how well she performs, following a similar enough arc to Kanae from season 18. Like I mentioned before, I predict that Emily will outperform my 5th place prediction in the first 2 rounds of the Black Jacket Elimination Challenge, but that she will lose to this person in the final round by a very slim margin, forcing her elimination directly before the Black Jacket phase of the competition. Next, the contestant that I compared to Nikki and to Heather, and who I predict will be eliminated in 5th place, is Brynn Gibson. Like Nikki from season 19, Brynn has had her highs and lows, particularly earning a punishment pass after the alcohol challenge, and being criticized by her teammates for her communication and service, respectively. Though she's probably had a little too many confessionals up until this point, Brynn is one of the more well-liked contestants this season by fans. However, going to future episodes, I feel that this is going to change. As with Heather from season 18, I think that Brynn will have increasingly inconsistent performances, though will still be strong enough to make it deep into the competition. Regardless, I think that she will defeat Emily in the final round of the Black Jacket Elimination Challenge, and fans will be upset by this result. Unfortunately for Brynn, the other 4 Black Jackets might also feel somewhat disappointed by this result, as was the case with Kimberly Roth from season 16, Heather, and Amber, and, also like these 3, I believe that she will be the first Black Jacket contestant to be eliminated. By the time there are 4 contestants left, I believe that Ramsey will already have in his mind who should get the job at Gordon Ramsay's steak in Las Vegas. This means that whether the next 2 eliminated contestants will be eliminated consecutively on the same night, or whether one of these 2 will be eliminated after losing a 3-way variant of the final challenge, depends on how well the eventual winner would perform during the last service before the finale. Whichever scenario becomes reality, this does not affect my placement predictions for the final 4 contestants. So, the person who I believe will be eliminated after the last service before the finale and my 4th place prediction is Sam Garman. I believe that Sam is a solid cook and that he has positive leadership potential, which is why I think he will make it deep into the competition. However, in spite of his good qualities, I strongly believe that he will have the weakest performance out of the final 4 when running the pass during the last service before the finale, especially when it comes to facing quality control tests. He'll have trouble with the quality control test based on how he handled similar obstacles earlier in the season. He did not correct Jay when the latter told the former to fire a salmon too early during the first service, and he walked Alex's raw chicken up to the pass during the second service. Nonetheless, he will have had a solid run by the time he is eliminated, and Ramsey will tell him to keep his jacket. Next, the person who I believe will either be eliminated after the last service before the finale, or after losing a 3-way variant of the final challenge and my 3rd place prediction is Megan Gill. No, Megan Gill without an H. That's better. Honestly, it was so difficult for me to decide on my last 3 placement predictions because Kia, Megan, and Steve have all had a near-flawless track record, for as much as the show allows us to see, and they seem to be as strong as one another. However, only 2 contestants can run the pass on the final service, and only one of those 2 can win the competition. Unfortunately for Megan, I see Kia and Steve edging her out to the final 2, and thus she will be the last contestant eliminated before the final service. Before I reveal who I think will be the runner-up and the winner, I want to predict who will be assigned to whose brigade and in which order. I predict that Steve will win the final challenge and will therefore be rewarded with first pick. I predict that Steve will pick Sam first, then Kia will pick Megan, then Steve will pick Emily, then Kia will pick Brynn, then Steve will pick Victoria, then Kia will pick Josie, then Steve will pick Trenton, and then Kia will be left with Antonio. Steve's brigade will cook in the blue kitchen and Kia's brigade will cook in the red kitchen. Okay, now it's time to find out who I think will turn the locked doorknob. I predict that the runner-up of season 20 will be Kia Wilhelm. Being the most consistent chef on both the original and current red team, I can easily see Kia making it to the finale, but I do not think that she will win, simply based on her edit so far this season, which unfortunately makes her seem like somewhat of a non-entity. So, finally, I predict that the winner of Hell's Kitchen season 20, who would also be the first male winner since season 12, will be Steve Glenn. Parallel to Kia, Steve is the most consistent chef on both the original and current blue team, and he got out of the gate strong by earning a punishment pass after the alcohol challenge. Like Corey Sutton from season 19, Steve has a winner's edit from what I see. Unlike Corey though, whose winner's edit was based on her vocalness and her killer instinct, Steve's is based on his keen ability to simultaneously remain serious but performing well on his own, while being kind to his teammates and trying to help them recover from their mistakes. His leadership hasn't been shown that much yet, but I believe that this will rise and rise as the season progresses. So yes, Steve would make a great winner, but I'm sure some fans would be left wondering why Ramsey took this long to crown another male winner of Hell's Kitchen. One possible theory is that Ramsey would have wanted to finally break the cycle of women winning in order to prove that the TV show is not set up for women to win. Another possible theory is that, considering that the winner of season 20 would serve as Ramsey's protege, in a similar vein to Christina Wilson from season 10, Ramsey may have shifted his focus from women in general to people of color, regardless of their gender, in order to both freshen things up going forward and to improve his brand's image. Furthermore, taking into account the aftermath of the murder of George Floyd that took place a year after the filming of season 20, Ramsey may feel even more encouraged to keep his focus shifted in that direction going forward. A final possible theory is that Steve impressed Ramsey enough as the strongest chef of the season that Ramsey decided to take a break from hiring women for Hell's Kitchen Prive's jobs in order to hire him for one. Regardless of the theories as for why the pattern of winners would break now in season 20, I would be very happy if Steve won the competition because he has the passion and the heart, and he is one of the strongest performers of the season. So there you have it. This has been my cast assessment and placement predictions video for season 20. If you have spoilers for the rest of the season, please do not comment them here until the corresponding episodes air. Myself and the fans want to leave each episode not feeling spoiled. That being said, who do you think is going to win Hell's Kitchen Season 20? Why is that? Let me know in the comment section below. Before I go, I'd like to give a couple of shoutouts to Liam Kelly369, who has created his own placement predictions video that I will leave a link to in the description, and to Grant Armstrong, who has helped promote some of my content on the Hell's Kitchen Wiki. Thank you for watching and be sure to like and subscribe. Toodles!